Anti-ICE terror in Dallas. A sniper on a nearby rooftop firing indiscriminately at the ICE facility below and striking an unmarked van that was transporting migrants. One of the detainees inside that vehicle was shot and killed, and 2 other illegal immigrants are in critical condition. No ICE officers were harmed, and the suspect turned the gun on himself. FBI Director Kash Patel posting this chilling image, shell casings found near the suspect's body with the words anti-ICE written on it. Last month, the same facility was hit with a bomb threat. Ted Cruz and J.D. Vance are begging Democrats to end the hate against ICE.
This needs to stop. Violence is wrong. Politically motivated violence is wrong. This must stop. To every politician who is using rhetoric demonizing ICE and demonizing CBP, stop.
But if your political rhetoric encourages violence against our law enforcement, you can go straight to hell. If you want to stop political violence, stop telling your supporters that everybody who disagrees with you is a Nazi.
Trump posting on Truth. I am calling on all Democrats to stop this rhetoric against ICE and America's law enforcement right now. But the Democrats aren't getting the message.
Masked men jumping out of unmarked cars, people disappearing, no due process, no oversight, zero accountability happening in the United States of America today. People ask, well, is authoritarianism, you're being hyperbolic? Bull, we're being hyperbolic.
I believe that one of the reasons Donald Trump wants to send troops into American cities is because he wants to be able to take control of the 2026 election. It's about his authoritarian need to control.
And right before the shooting, Hillary was on Morning Joe saying we got to stop demonizing half the country as she demonized half the country.
We have got to stop demonizing each other.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, I think most of that right now in our country's history is coming, from the right, coming from people who want to dominate. They want their point of view. We have got to stop with the finger pointing and the scapegoating.
Dana, basket of deplorables, irredeemable. There's been a lot of that stuff coming from Hillary and her party. When is this going to stop?
One of the things Democrats must consider is that rhetoric against ICE, the policy, you want to change it? Fine, I'll listen. But rhetoric against the people of ICE is not just endangering now ICE agents, but also the detainees. So if you care about them, then maybe we should stop this. But I don't know, again, from a law enforcement perspective, how you get a handle on it when it feels like it's very dark and it's spreading and it's silent until it's not.
Paul, I know we're in the early stages of the investigation, but what can you tell us?
So a couple of things I would say real quick, and I know we're going to cover the politics of this, so let me stay a little more operational. First of all, ICE doesn't have the capacity. They don't have the resources to do deep prophylactic intel. They're not scraping the internet for cyber threats against ICE. You're going to have to use elements of DHS, et cetera. In other words, we're doing essentially domestic intelligence gathering for people, against people that want to harm ICE. We're going to have to do a lot more of that. It takes resources, it's going to take personnel, costs money. Police work costs money. This is something, the kind of thing that we traditionally think of having to run against, let's say, the Soviets, right? Back in the Cold War. We still do it, obviously, against Chinese, Russians, et cetera. But you need now, clearly, a really all-hands-on-deck approach to prophylactically protecting the people ahead of time that we're asking to do this legal work. Legal, no matter what Newsom says. Secondly, real quick, we need a domestic terrorism law. We don't have one. We use that phrase very, very commonly, very, very blithely. We say, oh, this is domestic terrorism. Everybody thinks the box is checked and that's it. Both sides of the aisle have problems with a domestic terrorism law. Reasonable minds can disagree about this because both sides are worried about it being weaponized against them. That comes from the designation piece. Donald Trump's designation of Antifa, if nothing else, doesn't have much operational effect, but nothing else, raises the issue. What do you do when you have a domestic group that is essentially dedicated to overthrowing or counteracting violently the policies of the American government, legal policies of the American government? We don't have much of the capacity for that. And that's why, if you look deeply into it, Mangione, right? Ideological murder. You know what they had to charge him with federally to get that charge in? Stalking. and it's thin stuff, okay? And it's a real unique use of it. Realistically, if they do the same thing for Tyler Robinson, they're going to have to do something similar as far as I know right now. So we don't have a domestic terrorism law. It's time to take a close look at that. I have a piece dropping on Friday on Fox News website that delineates how I think we need to do it in a safe way. But we're kidding ourselves. If you look, Crooks, Ruth, Mangione, Tyler Robinson, Shapiro's fire. That was a lefty. ABC, the guy shoots up ABC studios because he doesn't like the way the Kimmel thing went. We had this guy that stepped into a wedding in Nashua. All it is coming ideologically from one area. Eventually, do we have nuts in the right? Sure, of course. And eventually, you're going to get one. But right now, we're in the season of real leftist violence. It is something that we call domestic terrorism. We don't have the mechanism. If I was sitting where Congress is now, I'd like to see somebody on Donald Trump's staff say, crack the whip, let's start to look at this, because Congress has been MIA on this.
Jessica, you have never called ICE agents fascists or Gestapo or Nazis. You've never done that, but there are people in your party that have done that. Do you think that's responsible?
Listen, I think that fascism and fascists is a very special category of people, and you should use it when it's really applicable and sparingly, because then people will believe you when you say it. And it has become too common to hear words like that. And that is a both sides problem. And last week we went through the litany of times that Donald Trump has used that rhetoric, and the fact that he came out after Charlie Kirk's tragic assassination and said the radical left did this, and then we heard a chorus of "we are at war." And that does permeate the entirety of American society, that they hear that from the top. We don't know
garbage.
that much.
That is absolute garbage.
It is
Continue. When something terrible happens
Greg,
when somebody gets murdered, you're saying, how dare you be enraged by it? Continue.
No,
I'm done.
what I say is, how dare
There is
you
no, I'll give you the both.
blame
No, Jessica, I'll give you the
millions
both sides.
Greg, why don't
I
you
agree
let me
with you.
finish?
There
We
is
did
both
this
sides.
just a week
On
ago.
one hand, you have the hard left, and on the other hand, you have the left.
Why are you
They're the
yelling
both
at me?
sides of the same coin, because you walk into this room and you're not reading it. There is no both sides. You don't have the evidence for that.
That's not true.
You
Who
can't
shot up
say
the
that Donald
CDC
Trump
and
says
killed
this.
someone?
You guys act on it.
also-
You guys act on it. We don't. What do you want?
What do I want? I would like to talk about the specifics of who Vance Bolter actually was, since we fought about that last time, because you make it out as if this was just that he knew Melissa Hortman. That
Let's
is not what happened
focus
there.
on this thing now. I'll destroy you on
We
that
don't
later.
know.
But focus on this now.
Fine,
You want to go
I'll
back?
focus on this now. This looks like a kid that was inflamed either by the leftist cabal, or maybe he used his own eyes. And maybe he saw what's going on. Maybe there are people in his community who are being picked up by people from ICE. Maybe he saw raids at Home Depot. Or maybe he did hear J.B. Pritzker. He seems like a Morning Joe viewer to me, right? Someone who had tuned in, saw Hillary Clinton, and then went out and grabbed his gun. The common denominator in all of this is that we have young men, usually young white men, who have access to these guns and are carrying out these tragedies. They are nihilists. They live online. And again, do you think it's normal that people are writing on casings anti-ICE? They think that it's a joke. You look at Tyler Robinson's text messages with his roommate and partner, it reads like a joke. They just wanted us on Fox News to have to be able to read that stuff out loud. He even said it in the messages. So I get it. You're amped up. I don't think that I said anything worthy of that level of explosion.
Your rationalization of both sides. You have to understand, since Kurt's death, there is no both sides anymore, Jessica.
Why did the DOJ take down the study that showed how much right-wing extremism?
What study was that? Which one? The one in The Economist that was sponsored by a group run by a guy in Antifa? That study that has been discredited by the Federalists? You're walking down a really bad alley right now.
Federalists?
Yes. I actually did see, Jessica, I did the deep dive on that study. That study was authored by a project that was run by a guy who says he was an Antifa. That is why that whole thing has been scrubbed, okay? It's real simple. You label someone a fascist or a racist or a Nazi, it makes you free to attack them, and that has been the ideology from the start. It's weird.
So why is it okay
let
when
me
Donald
talk.
Trump does it?
What?
Just tell me why it's okay when Donald Trump does it.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Great. I'm enjoying this.
Okay. You won't be for long. The left calls Trump a hate monger. They have called me a hate monger because I ridicule the left. I ridicule protesters. I ridicule academia, Hollywood, the news media. I make fun of The View every day. I make fun of the UN. Guess what? No one acts on the things that I say because my side doesn't do that. We say people are stupid, we say people are wrong, but we don't say they're evil. That is your game, okay? And then you come and you say, okay, ma'am, this is a mentally ill loner. Well, who do you think does this stuff? It's not Ben Affleck. It's not Tom Brady. It's not even Carrot Top. People who do this stuff are always that way. The question is, who points them in that direction? Why pick ICE? Why pick Kirk? Why target TV stations that put bombs under Fox trucks? Why vandalize memorials? Why kill kids in Catholic schools? Two things can be true. A person can be mentally ill, and you can be guiding him to that place in his life. That is how brainwashing works.
There is a litany of examples that
you will not have them. If I gave you 2 months to look for them, you couldn't find them because they've been debunked.
Really?
You have one thing.
The
If you want to talk about,
if you want to talk a minute, Salas's son has been debunked. Dylan Roof has been debunked. Vance Bolter and his list of dozens
we can talk about that, but
go ahead and talk about it.
Okay, you want to talk about it?
I do.
Okay, there was not a relentless drumbeat for 10 years about his victim like there was here. There was an intent and a motive for her killing by her killer alone. It wasn't 5. It wasn't National Review. It wasn't any show going like, you know what? We need to go after this fascist. Hopefully someone will take her out. That never happened.
Guys,
that is why your analogy is so pointless and desperate.
Pipe bombs being sent to Democrats' houses. People saying in court, I was inspired by Donald Trump.
If you want to do this math, you're going to be embarrassed.
Brown people. According to you, I'm embarrassed every day. So frankly, I'm just feeling normal. Thank you.
We should do this every week.
Yes.
I honestly, it's first day of the week with Greg seems to go badly for me. So,
well, you don't come in here with both sides.
It's not.
It's like going into a funeral and saying, "Hey, let's have a kegger."
Well, sometimes you should just celebrate the life.
Dana, is it always like this?
You should see when I get going.
If you enjoy this content, please consider subscribing to my channel to stay up to date with future videos. Thank you for watching.